Greetings and welcome. Thank you for stopping by. Here on TikTok Live, original air date is Wednesday, May the 18th, 2022. Hope y'all are doing well wherever you are on the globe if you're coming in on its original air date. However, if you're clicking on much later here on TikTok or YouTube, just want to say hey and welcome and hope everything is going well for you wherever you are on the globe. If you are indeed a high vibrational, benevolent, loving, light being, okay? Now, the title here, it says Bloomy'S story. So I'm going to try to make it brief. I really felt guided to share just a little bit more. I think I've mentioned to you guys that I'm going to be doing this often, but it's only when I'm prompted because, there's so much of a story, you can't tell it all at one time, right? It's just, especially if you're up there in age, you know what I'm saying? It's like you can't get to everything at one single time. So it's really when I'm guided, when I feel the prompt, and it just depends. And so I'm guided to share just this one little piece of Bloomy's story. Bloomy, that's me. That's my angle name, right? And it's a reason for that. I think I've told the story about how I even came up with that. It really wasn't um, what people think, okay? So now, aspects of Bloomy's story. I've shared, you know, that I have always been a seeker of truth. That's always been me, even unawakened, right? I didn't know that I was a star seed earth angel or that I came on an ascended path right away. Who does? We don't know that, okay? It's a part of the journey, okay? To discover, it's a part of it, okay? So we choose to forget. That's what the human journey is, to forget, to remember again, okay? So I didn't know, and I incarnated into a certain ancestry for a purpose. So that came with a whole slew of shit. Okay. They call it the trauma, the wounds of the blood, the wounds of that particular lineage from both sides, from the mother or the father side, that you came here to deal with on top of your own soul's journey prior to that carnation, right? So, I've always been that way. And I originally, because of my culture and conditioning background and the lineage in which I came in, okay, so like most folks, like myself, we're usually in the traditional man-made religious, organized religious background, usually, okay? So as that seeker of truth, I've always been one that was gung-ho. I'm one of those, you know? It's like, if you're going to do it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, don't be a half stepper. Whatever you in, be in it, shit. I was always like that. It's like, we finna do this. But it was always with the heart of seeking. It had, for me, it had nothing to do with a show. I'm gonna be honest, not for me. For me, it was about seeking truth, real truth. For me, it was always about finding answers and healing, not just so I could appear to be something to people. It was never about that for me, okay? Now, in that, being that I was a seeker of truth, I've never had an issue, unbeknownst to most, okay, in spite of the lies and illusions that have been created and told of me. I've never been codependent. See, this is the great secret and illusion of the whole twisted narcissistic dynamic, okay? I'm about to tell you why. I'm about to give you proofs. Even though things were challenging and hard, as a young woman, okay, I was always trying to get away from my family because I always knew something was wrong. My body, my DNA, even before I could understand, was telling me something's wrong with your mother. Something's not right with her. All this shit is off. Something wrong, motherfucker. Something wrong, goddamn it. with your father. Something is wrong with him. But I couldn't figure it out. I was a young woman. So I created things. I think I've told the story of my son. Um, my son's father is no longer here on earth. I honestly believe in part due to connecting to my family. Oh shit, that's a whole nother recording. But anyway, our son, okay, my son, it was a plan, okay. I did not have a typical um, teenage accidental situation. My son was actually a plan between me and his father. Um, because I wanted to get away from my family. Sad, right? I was a young woman, super young. I wanted to get away. I knew, and I was like, uh. And he was my high school sweetheart. Hello. Okay. So, I mean, I don't want to get too far deep in that, but, high school sweetheart, my first love. Um, that's the story of us. So, we planned that so that I can get away. Great escape, right? That's the first indication that I was never codependent on my family. Okay? I was never codependent on my family. Now, the second indication, okay, so that's the beginning. I had my son at a very early age. I was 17, almost 18 years old, okay? And all of it was a plan and a strategy between his father and I. So we got married very early and we had our son, okay? Then, as I was, I lived life as a young woman, roughing it, trying to deal with it on my own, like any of us, unawakened, right? Always looking for love in all the wrong places, typical story. Um, I was always doing things, you guys, looking for love and answers and truth, believe it or not. Not to say it means every decision that I made in those early years was good, but my energy or my frequency, my motive and intent was not about how much, oh, I want this, I want that, or trying to exploit somebody or trying to be better than somebody, or that was never me. See, that's another marker of divinity. Okay, it's another marker. You're not perfect, but there's a frequency template or signature that's different. Even in your most grotesque failures, poor decisions, and mistakes, the vibration is different. Okay. You're not looking, ooh, who can I get over on? Who can I steal from today and make me? Like, that's a malevolent energy. Okay? So, now, again, I'm not trying to say we were perfect. We go, when we're unhealed and unawakened, we still have those templates and programs and the drama and the trauma like anybody else. Okay? So, we do make poor decisions, make mistakes, we choose things for wrong reasons like everybody else, but it's not quite the same. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not to the same extent. There's not a malevolent drive. It's not out of hate. Okay? That's what marks it as different. Okay? Now, moving from that, as time proceeded, life was challenging. As you guys know, I speak of my son being of the special needs. So I was a young woman still trying to essentially raise herself. And then when I did have my son, trying to deal with that. The point of the whole topic is Bloomy's story. I was never codependent. That's an illusion. That's the story told by the narcissistic program and those that are under it. It was actually the other way around. I never had an issue. Here's what I'm trying to explain. I'm not saying that I was perfect, and I'm not saying that I had everything figured out, and I'm not saying that I didn't have failures and struggles like any other human. But what I am saying is it's not what people thought. Narcs have a problem with being alone. This is something you guys are going to figure out one day. So when they can no longer control or have access to, subconsciously they become angry and upset and seek to get some type of vengeance. This is my family. This is what they did. Let me tell you why. As a young woman, when I was seeking truth, then here you go, like the typical African American culture, or any culture for that matter. But what I came into, okay, I'm going to go to church and get saved. And I did. But my personality is as such. When I go in, I go in. I'm going to be full throttle. This ain't going to be no Christmas, Easter kind of salvation. I'm going to go in, goddamn it. And that's what I did. Whole life. I allowed it to be my life as was taught. As was taught. This wasn't about putting on a cool, nice white outfit and a big hat and, doing a ceremony. This was life. So I did. In that, I was capable of walking away from things even then. This is the point that I'm proving. Even then, as a young woman, raising her child, her special needs child alone, even then, I had the ability to walk away, no matter how rough shit was going to be for me. And every time that I honored that walk away in order to find my journey and path, I was always supported even then, because again, it was my heart. It was the frequency. It was my soul. It was the intentions. All of that is an energy. It had nothing to do with I'm trying to punish them, my family. It had nothing to do with I'm trying to put on a show to appear to be something. It had everything to do with this was the journey that I was on, and I was going to give it all I had. And if something wasn't quite right with something, i.e. my family, I needed to pull away. Because that's the only way you can start to see something clearly. As long as you are in the midst of something and they are in your face constantly, it is hard to differentiate the energy. The illusion, on top of if they're into that spell work, the closer proximity, the more they can have it fuck over you. Especially since it's hidden. So I was separating myself then. Me and my son went through many, 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 many years standing alone. It wasn't just here in the last few years when I was in Sodom and Gomorrah. Proving a point. I never had an issue of codependency. I was always able to walk away. And some would say, well, you had your son. Absolutely. But see, the part that people don't catch is they think, even if I erase the equation of the religion, it was like, well, you can erase that if you want. Still something ain't right. So they, whether they're admitting it or not, or ever admitted it, they were upset because I did it. They were upset because, they blamed the church for it. They blamed, the leadership of the church in which I was a part of at that time. Okay? But in truth, even, separate from that, I knew something was off. I knew that they didn't love properly and treat me properly. I knew it. I just couldn't put my finger on it. See, when you're still asleep and you're trying to figure it all out. And so we had to rebuild our lives even then. We had to learn how to rough it, when we were connected to the church, at some of the times they would give the support. But again, like I talked about people doing shit, there is a price. See, it's as long as you're doing what we say, it's that control. It's that you must be one of us, cultic energy. So, but separate from that, I still learned how to rough it. Me and my son, when we got this the place that we lived in for, I want to say like 15 years prior to us going to Sodom and Gomorrah, it was built up in different ways. My family, they'd given me pieces of things here and there, shit that they didn't want, shit that they were throwing in the trash, basically. Let's just say that. Don't get it twisted. Wasn't nothing wonderful. Okay? But outside of that, me and my son would find things, see, and we would make it beautiful, and it created our whole home, right? Independence. I had financial troubles like anybody else. I was a young woman trying to educate herself, trying to go to college. I spent many years in college, trying to go to college, trying to, when I did get saved, trying to live the saved life. I lived celibate. When that took place, I lived celibate for over 8 years, 7, 8 years straight. Okay, until I, had fallings and shit like that, trying to keep myself clean and straight and wait. That's a whole nother story. I can't wait till I get some guidance on talking about that. But so again, I was independent in that way. My family and many tried to imply that I was codependent because I needed help or things was happening. The irony is they were a part of why things were happening. The other irony is they themselves also are codependent, or I should say they are codependent. They themselves need help and receive help constantly. If you were to review their lives, you would discover most of them have never been separate from a love companion very long. You discover it. And some side dude, somebody they pimping out or getting some money. But I was the codependent one. Most of them, are criminals. You keep it 100. They're criminals. Yep. I committed one crime as a teenage girl. And I mean that, teenage. I think I was all of 18, 19 years old. Connectors they got. They could say. But them, oh, let me tell you. Criminals, thieves, frauds. Okay? But yet, they tried to paint. You see where I'm going with this narcissism and how it really works? When I was a teenager, I did things for men. And I say teenager because here's the truth. I was. The only thing that they got is the shit when I was a young woman. I was looking for love, unfortunately, very broken, programmed. The drama and traumas I had inherited and the hexes that had been put on me unbeknownst to me at the time. So the things I did foolish in the arena of love and sex and all of that stuff was at a very young age. Very young. And I can promise you it went so I can pay my mortgage. I can promise you that. Not that it makes it better, but see, it tells something about the story, though. It tells the motivation. It tells what drove something. Some are driven for that purpose. That wasn't me. That wasn't why. I wasn't looking for a come up. But that's my family. They wouldn't tell you that, though. They're not going to tell you that. This is what they try to portray about me. I didn't go through a whole family of dudes or a whole family. They homies and relatives. But that's what they would try to portray, isn't it? It's them. I'm saying all this to say they, went through such extent and lengths to paint me in a certain way. That was true of them. And the independence, like I said, I was going to prove it. I've been knowing how to walk away and go it alone for a very long time. This angered them, and so they tried to conspire, get a whole groups and groups of folks to do this, to try to ruin me and to try to, paint me in a certain way and to try to end things for me. And so they can finally say, see, because they're not truthful. So every time that I had in my seeking of truth, that I would walk away and cut them off and just say, okay, to hell with it. They didn't like that. But I eventually learned that they didn't share how over the years I would try. And this is the part that they don't tell anybody. Of course not, because they want to look like heroes. They're not going to tell how years for years, if ever they came by, I was always trying to give them things, giving heart, years and years. When I realized, okay, maybe something I did and said, and as a younger woman, and it would come to me, and I would come to them, go, oh, and I would tell them, apologize to that, or they're not going to tell you how there was times where I would say, feel guided, okay, what do you appreciate about them and good about them, and tell them. They're not going to tell you that. They never did it for me, though. Not once. They're karmics. Not once. None of them. So they, worked tirelessly to paint me out to be what they themselves are. The point that I'm making. And in their subconscious, they were being driven by all of this lower vibratory energy and programs and pain and trauma that they claim they didn't have. But it's essentially why they were driven to lie on me and smear a campaign and steal and break the law. Because they stole and broke the law. My family stole, grouped up with people to steal. And I mean that. And I'm not talking about a bag of potato chips. I mean steal. Fraud. Something that is legally and rightfully mine and my son's. And they collaborated with a group of people. Most of them are dark witches. I'm calling judgment on their asses too. They're next. So, but they try to make me out to be that. You see how this works? They're the thieves. They try to make me out to be. They're the whores. They try to make me out to be one. They're, you know what I'm saying? They're the meanies. They try to make me out to be one. You see how this works yet? You guys caught it yet? That's narcissism. They're selfish and greedy. They try to make me out to be. You see how this works? They're not right in the head, because that's what narcissists, they're not. They're not. It's an actual issue. But that's what they try to make me out to be. They projected it. Let's create chaos and conflict, then so we can say how unwell the person is. That is narcissism. All because I never had a problem standing alone. I never had a problem standing in my own energy. I never had a problem walking away from them. Collective, if what I'm saying to you or what I'm saying about my story resonate, understand that this is why they try to perpetuate and project and deflect all of that onto you, to their groups and their organizations and their friends and all of that. Because it's the truth of them and they want this kept in the dark so that they can have power. But I'm here to be the whistleblower on all narcs with fancy suits, briefcases, six-figure incomes, churches, Reiki centers. Within one's own family, because like I put on a previous video, this is where it starts, because this is where you're gonna get the most or the easiest access and power. This is why I tell the collective, the sooner we can accept that chances are we're connected to karmic family, the easier life is going to get for us. The sooner we can accept that we may have married karmics and have had children with karmics, then life is going to get a lot easier for us. Because see, it's what you're connected to. And they'll project it onto someone that's not even there. For an example, like my ex. He's involved in a lot of this stuff. Is, but unbeknownst to him, it's been a part of his life the whole time. His karmic whores and friends and family members used me as escape. It was them the whole time. This is why, again, I'm pointing this, not just in his case, I'm talking about the collective, whoever this is going to resonate for. It's who you're connected to. When we start looking at our history and what's been going on, it's like, how are you going to scapegoat and blame it on somebody that your shit been fucked up long before you met them? Now what? Why is that? Why are you stuck? Why have you been stuck long before you met this motherfucker? That's because it's who you've been fucking with. Oh, shit. It's the ones, like I said, they work at the doctor's office, the dentist's office, the hospital. Okay? They give kids breathing treatments and shit. They buy Xboxes and cupcakes. It's always what's closest to you. And it's going to always be an exploitation of what your wound is. But I digress. The point that I was making is that I never had a problem. They did. Narcs need to win at all costs. And, and an issue with all of this, I think the other night I talked about how come I don't say certain things anymore and I've changed my verbiage, is because if you're dealing with someone that is mentally unwell, whether they're diagnosed or not, just like these movies we see, the reason why they're never happy is because they're not well. They're not going to be happy until they destroy a person that they feel has won, or that they feel has something that they don't, or that they're better than. It's that fixation. Not happy until they destroy something. That's an illness. If you can't find your happiness in receiving what you claim would make you happy, then you have an illness. There's something off. There's something in the energy. Chances are you are overran by malevolence. Okay? That's another sidebar. I digress. But collective, understand, if you're a starseed earth angel empath and these people have tried to make like you're so weak and you're so this and you're so hopeless and helpless, and guess what? It's because that's who they are. It's been them the whole time. This is why they're the ones that have a hissy fit when you separate. This is why they have a hissy fit when they can't control you and dominate you and have power over you. Because obviously, collective, you're able to walk away, move on, and heal and rebuild your own life on your own terms, whether they like you or not, whether they're there or not, and whether they assist you or not. And this is what they don't like. Pay attention to narcs. You're rarely going to see a single narc. They're in groups. They're in packs. Okay? Because they can't. That's the only way they can feed. That's where their illusion of power is. Pay attention. You'll see what I'm saying. All right, you guys. So, collective. That's Bloomy's story, and it may be yours. But I'm here to tell you, bright soul, if your story is similar to mine, it was never you, dear. It is them. You don't have a problem with codependency. You may have had it in the reverse as you healed, but it was never what you thought. It was them. You're more powerful than they ever wanted you to know.